Hello, everyone. I'd like to call to order. The board does not write the zoning ordinance, but does have the authority to grant relief where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following a public hearing. Use variances require a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variances. Non-use variance requests a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. If you'd like to request that the board table adjourn your case due to the absence of a full board, which we are down 2 members, you should inform the chairperson immediately after the public hearing. Petitioners shall do their best to limit presentations to 10 minutes. Each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit comments to 3 minutes. Alrighty. Called, let's see, a roll call. We can see that we are missing 2 people, as I stated. So that brings us to the approval of minutes of last month, July 14th, 2022. Is there any? Yes, Mr. Moore.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? I'll go Mr. Klatt this one.
Sure.
I think you were.
Anything to add or?
No.
All right. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries unanimously. Old unfinished business, case number 220720, 400 East Leakin Avenue. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
I'll bring up some of the images on the screen, and I don't have anything further to add unless the board has some questions for me. I think it may be wise to ask the petitioner to come forward and to state anything that they may want to add in addition to their comments last month. The one thing that we'll remind the public is there was a public hearing that was open and closed last month. Unless you, we're not required to, but unless you elect to open that up again specific to this case, it's at your discretion.
Okay, thank you. We might do that depending upon what comments are said by the petitioner, but it would be good for the petitioner to come up before us and once again state their name and see if there's any questions, especially for 2 of our members who weren't here last month but probably watched the meeting.
So we're here last month speaking on the ghost kitchen concept here for the city of Royal Oak, and just to kind of reiterate the concept, it's going to be a delivery only concept that we're looking to bring here to the city, looking to bring some authentic and unique cuisines from restaurants that can't reach this area, whether it's in Detroit, Ann Arbor, or out of the state. And with that, I've been doing some due diligence on my end with some conversations I've had, whether it's the owners of Pokeworks, Tubby's, or Just Baked. One of the biggest topics was parking within the facility, and considering it's zoned for like a medical office right now, we don't think it's properly zoned in that sense because the parking spots won't be able to accommodate a business of that nature. So what we're looking to do is implement this idea with a ghost kitchen, and after speaking with a few different restaurants, each restaurant said they'd only need 1 to 2 parking spots max to operate this type of business, considering it'd be delivery only. There'd be no sit down, so it would be primarily a third party, whether it's like DoorDash or Uber Eats delivering out from the area. Another thing that I've looked into as far as considering there will be restaurants in there, they will be equipped with the proper ventilation to be up to code for restaurant use. And beyond that, one other topic of concern was like pest control and whatnot. So we've been in talks with waste management and pest control companies to bring them in regularly, whether it's once a week or twice a week, just to ensure that the property remains clean and we're up to code in that manner as well. So that's really all I had from my end. I'm not sure if there's anything you'd like for me to elaborate on regarding the concept itself or any of these topics.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any questions for the petitioner? Yes, Mr. Moore.
I do have an additional question on your concept.
Yes.
So will this be delivery drivers only? So I know in like DoorDash and some of the other apps, you can select pickup or delivery.
Yes.
Are you doing delivery only from these places, or will there be pickup?
Strictly delivery.
Okay.
If you want to go on DoorDash, you can select that restaurant to deliver from. However, you're not able to go walk up there and pick up your food or park your car there and pick up your food. It's strictly third party.
So the pickup options
There is
not
no pickup
available
option,
for
yep.
those? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clant?
Oh, yeah, you mentioned odors and rodents and things of that nature, and I think one of your neighbors was here last week,
Yeah.
or last month, that complained about that as well. And just an observation, looking at this site plan, it looks like on the southern end, there's about 25 feet or so between the building and the property line, which means you probably could relocate the trash either behind the building or to the side, away from those residential
Yes.
lot lines. That might be something to consider too. I know you have to pave it, but
Absolutely.
it might be a way to get that trash away from the residents.
Yeah, and I know with my partners, we are willing to invest either from like a ventilation standpoint or even something of that nature as far as moving the dumpster. That's definitely something that we are open to being flexible about. So that's a great point as well.
It will hurt parking though, because there's a few spaces that do extend that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was a comment last month too about those overhead doors. Maybe you could pick up additional parking spaces if the overhead doors were, maybe not, open for maneuverability.
Yep. Yeah. I think as far as that goes with, even with the overhead doors, I mean, we can use those as parking spots. We don't see that as being an obstacle for us. And as I mentioned, I have reached out to like 3 tenants that are actually like inquiring about the building just to kind of get some ideas. And all the 3 tenants that I spoke with require just 1 to 2 spots to operate their business out of. So we don't see the parking as much of a concern from our point of view.
Mr. Moore?
I guess I just have a statement. If you knew when your trash service was picking up, I mean, you could potentially use those few spaces if they were picking up outside of business hours, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Other questions for the petitioner?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Reddy.
This is just following up from my line of questioning from last month. So do you have anything to add about, so for use variances, it's a stricter standard than for the non-use variance. And it says the applicant must present evidence to show that if the chapter is applied strictly, unnecessary hardship will result, and specifically about section A, that the property cannot reasonably be used for the purposes permitted in that zone. And you mentioned that you thought it was zoned for medical, but it's actually, there's residential, single-family, multifamily. Do you have any evidence that like it could not be reasonably used for any of those? I think there would be sufficient parking for a lot of other uses, and especially considering that the building was fully occupied when you purchased it or took it over, right?
So my partner owned the building to start, and I just recently became partners with him, so
Okay.
I'm not really sure on the historical aspect of that. However, it's currently completely vacant at the moment. And we're looking to, as you mentioned, whether it could be any other types of businesses, but even with the parking situation there, we feel like this business concept would, facilitate that usage of much more as far as the parking goes. And then beyond that, you could put a medical office there, but at the same time, something like this, I think I'm looking to bring something unique and different to the city of Royal Oak, and to be able to bring restaurants that might not be able to reach out here can, help grow the economy in that sense, as far as like bringing some unique restaurants and have that outreach with delivery, and especially with this area in the Royal Oak area is continuously growing. So we feel like this is a good concept for something like this to kind of, grow the city itself.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I would love to have more restaurants in the area, but that's not the standard we have. So, like, do you have any evidence that it could not be used for the permitted purposes?
I mean, we've tried to fill up with other tenants. There's just like, no, I guess, necessary like demand or interest in that area. We've, reached out and tried to accommodate or fill up the units, but I would say with this, I've gauged other restaurants, whether they're in-state or out-of-state. I have 3 or 4 tenants that are essentially like ready to come see the building once it's hopefully zoned properly. We have the interest and the demand there, so that's why we're looking to kind of get this, hopefully get this approval and move forward.
Okay, but just so you know, we can't change the zoning. I mean, we can give you a variance, but we can't change the zoning.
Yep.
Any other questions for the petitioner? I do have one for you. Assuming best case scenario that these units only have 2 parking spots at any given time, that's 12 right there because 2 times 12 is that. And that leaves you with now 7 spots left for DoorDash. If you want to count the delivery doors, that's maybe 13. I can see on a normal time of the day, that's probably acceptable, but at lunchtime and dinner time where there's a big rush, I'm really concerned about the amount of traffic that's going in and out of there and whether or not you're going to have ample enough spots for the number of DoorDash, because I don't know about you, but anytime I go to a restaurant, there's usually 3 to 4 orders waiting for a DoorDash person to come up.
Yes. So to answer that, when a DoorDash driver does come or Uber Eats driver comes to pick up the orders, they're picking up multiple orders at once. So if there are 5 orders at one time, they pick up all 5 and will go out and deliver all 5. So you're not just picking up one order and leaving with it, and another Uber Eats driver driving in and pulling in and grabbing the bag and dropping off their meal. So if there's like 5 orders going out at noon, the Uber Eats driver will pull up and grab all 5 orders and he'll deliver them out. So it wouldn't be as much traffic as you would be thinking as if each meal was leaving separately in a different vehicle.
Okay, so it's different than a normal concept where
Correct.
I've gone into Noodles or someplace like that and you get 5 different DoorDash orders
Absolutely.
from 5 different people.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's similar as if you ordered, something off Amazon. The truck driver has multiple packages dropping them off. So similar to this concept as well, would be multiple meals at once.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And is there any other questions for the petitioner? All right. I am going to be nice and loud, since you spoke, allow the public to come and say anything if anyone wants to. Before I do that, though, please note that we have only 7 members up here. You need 6 affirmative votes for the use portion to be granted.
Okay.
So after I open and close the public comment, I'll ask you if you want us to again go forward or delay till next month, where hopefully we'll have more than 7 people here for you,
Okay.
but it's not a guarantee.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right. I will reopen public comment on this case if anyone would like to come forward to speak on this. Anyone? Once, twice, 3 times. Okay, we'll close public comment. Would you like us to go forward with discussion on this, or?
Yes, please.
Okay. And we'll bring it to this side of the board. Discussion and/or motions. Yes, Mr. Moore.
I don't have a motion yet, but I think as far as looking at the parking here, I think this concept for 6 spaces is probably a less intensive use than if there were 6 professional offices there, whether they were medical, attorneys, veterinary. I don't see how they would have 6 professional offices there with the parking that they have, and that's part of the problem, that I'm hearing from them, is that they've tried to rent these spaces out to, other types of businesses and haven't been successful. So just my statement on that.
Okay. Mr. Clapp.
Yeah, I think that just overall it's a unique building. It's only 33 feet deep. Most retail buildings, commercial buildings are in the 60 to 70 foot deep depth of range. So it's very challenging, I can see here, to lease this out. So it seems like it is a pretty viable use, and they've tried to lease this out many times and have been unsuccessful.
Mr. Reddy.
Well, I guess, can I make a comment and then make a motion, or how does it work?
You can do
Yes,
either way.
To my way of thinking, this building was fully leased when they had it. So the parking was sufficient at that time. They've made renovations, increased the rent, and now they're not able to find tenants. But that doesn't mean that it's the standard is that the property could not reasonably be used for the purposes permitted in that zone, and there are many purposes. So I'd like to move that we deny the use variance.
Is there a second? There's not a second, I see. So the motion will die on the table for right now. Is there a motion then for the opposite to see? Mr. Moore.
I'll make a motion that we approve the requested variance.
Okay, is there a second? Mr.
second.
Gavin? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Moore.
I think I've stated, my thoughts on this just in my statement about the parking, and I think, that they've made efforts to rent these spaces out to, I'll say, more traditional types of businesses that are located in that area, and they've been unsuccessful. And, I don't think that's through any fault of their own. And this building has been vacant for a while, and it is a very unique parcel in that there's not much parking available. So,
Can I get a clarification? Was your motion to grant A and B, the use variance and the parking variance?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Both.
Yeah.
Both requested
Yes.
variances.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
And that was my understanding for my second as well.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Gavin?
I will say I was on the fence on this one, especially. It's actually not the property itself that I have concerns about. It actually relates more to for the use variance factors, item E, which is that it will preserve a substantial property right possessed by other property owners in the same zone, which is the closest I see to actually talking about neighboring properties in these standards. And I worry about, it's very valid concerns that the other the person who came to make a public comment last month made about, rodents and pest control and that sort of thing. And I just really hope that if this does get approved tonight, that the property owner will make sure that they take all those steps they've discussed and work with the neighboring property owners to ensure that those are addressed. But I don't really know that that factor gets to that because it's a residential zone and this is in a mixed-use zone. So, it just, I think overall that all these factors have been met. The property cannot be reasonably used for purposes permitted. It's been sitting vacant for a long time. I walk down that street all the time. It's been vacant quite a while. The appeal results from unique circumstances peculiar to the property and not in general neighborhood conditions. I think that's a factor here because it is a unique building. It's just, there's not like, not a lot of professionals are looking for, buildings that have those bay doors. So, the use requested by the variance would not alter the essential characteristics of the area, and I don't think that's the case. The alleged hardship was not created by any person presently having an interest in the property. That is the case here, I believe. And I do think this will preserve substantial property rights possessed by other property owners. In those respects, I'm in favor, but I do want to make sure that those concerns are noted, and that the petitioner is aware of them.
All right, additional comments? Mr. Clapp?
I mean, we can't place restrictions on trash pickup per se, but the simple fact they have room for one dumpster within that enclosure for 6 tenant spaces means it will be picked up frequently, just based on that fact alone. So I think it'll self-police itself to some degree.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Reddy?
Yeah, so I guess, I kind of have made these points in questioning last month and this month, but I feel that, one, they haven't provided evidence that it could not be reasonably used for purposes permitted in that zone, just because they specifically said they raised the rent. So if you were to buy a building and raise the rent to $1 million and then no one takes it, I don't think you can come and say, well, the only use is to put a casino here to meet that standard. I don't feel like that's a reasonable amount of evidence. And for Section D, that the hardship has not been created by a person presently having an interest in the property, it seems that they purchased a building that was fully occupied. How can we conclude that they aren't somehow, involved in the hardship that they have now? So that's why I'll be opposed to the motion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Grant.
I think they explained last month that when they purchased the building, the amount that the rent was at couldn't really cover the building costs, which is why they needed to raise the rent. That's what I believe I remember hearing.
I'm sorry, can I comment? Sure. So, I mean, but it was their option to purchase the building, right? I mean, no one forced them. But, and secondly, a point I didn't make the first time was, you know, we did have comments from the neighbors, and it seems like Section C about the essential character of the neighborhood, it seems like it's changing. But okay, that's all I have to add.
I'll throw in my comments right now. I'm very much on the fence because if I'm going strictly by the use variances of how it is and saying all 5 must be met to say it, I'm very much leaning no, even though I know this has been sitting vacant for a while, because the property could be used theoretically for purposes permitted in that zone. Yes, it theoretically could be used for other things within that multi-use zone that instead of this use that's coming before us. By not doing that, then that means D, the person with brought down the hardship themselves by not going after something else, whether they have that luck on that. And we've already talked about the neighbors in the area. However, and I'm very much concerned on the parking with peak times of food. Granted, maybe it'll be fine, maybe it won't. But it would have been nicer to see maybe more work towards the site if you're going with this concept to work with the trash and dumpster, maybe add a few more parking spots within there, going within the side and on the back, even though I very much hate to see all that grass go, but that might be having to go in the future if they don't have enough parking and we grant this. So that's one thing to be thought about right now, going this concept versus keeping with what the use variants are, or the use is already in that zone. So I'm very much torn on this, understanding their plight, but also understanding if we were going strictly by how the rules go, theoretically, I almost want to say it doesn't meet all the checks in the box for me. Ms.
Just listening to the other comments here and being new to seeing all this, the one thing that the parking issue, I mean, if you tried to use this for another thing like a vet, I mean, if you've taken your dog to the vet in the past year or so, I mean, that's crazy. If this was a daycare, I mean, people coming and dropping off children, I mean, you're going to just have, I don't see the parking happening for those types of uses, where this I can see more, it'd be more practical.
Mr. Clay.
So there's not too much room to park in the back either, with about 34.75 feet, 20-foot drive aisle. You might get some parallel parking back there, but that's about it. And that's going to trigger stormwater detention as well.
Yeah,
so there's a host of issues that come into that.
I know, yeah, I agree. Mr. Moore.
I will say for the parking, I've mentioned that this was, probably less than some of the other businesses that could be there. And ultimately, this is their concept. And if they have 6 spaces fully occupied and delivery drivers don't have anywhere to park, they're certainly not going to walk from great distances to pick up food and then deliver it to somebody cold. It's not going to be a model. So I would trust that they've done their research on coming and going and how many drivers at one time.
Well, the only thing I'm concerned about that is if you have too many drivers getting in there, then you create a safety concern. And I'm always a big proponent of trying to keep things safe. Does it make sense to make a situation that we know that could be possibly unsafe, create that situation? That's why I'm concerned about the peak times.
But I think some of the uses that are allowed there, such as daycares and things, I mean, you have rush hours for those types of things too. If they rented that out to 6 daycares with people trying to get in and out of there at, between 6 and 8 in the morning and then, 3 and 5 in the evening, you're going to have the same kinds of concerns.
Mr. Clapp?
Yeah, I think regardless of what the site plan shows, there's 6 open potential spaces based on those overhead doors. No matter what, somebody's going to park there if that space is open. So that's 6 more spots.
Right.
Mr. Gibbon?
I just wanted to point out that I was focusing mentally earlier on just the use variance, but my analysis that I did based on the factors actually mostly applies and overlaps very nicely with the non-use or variance for the parking. So just wanted to put that on the record.
All right. Any other comments? Are we ready to move to vote? All right, seeing no more comments, we will move to vote. All those signify by saying aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
All right. And opposed? All right.
Motion carries.
Motion carries
Everything's
6-1. Well, best of luck to you, and hopefully you won't have any issues that we're concerned about, and you will be able to placate your neighbors' concerns too. You're welcome. All right, on to new business. Case number 220823, 1510 Greenleaf Drive. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This site's located on the north side of Greenleaf, just east of Vincetta. It's in the city's one-family large lot zoning district. It's a larger size piece of property. It's 19,796 square feet. It contains an existing 2-story single-family dwelling and about a 500 square foot attached garage. I'll hover over that on the aerial photograph on the screen. And it also contains, you can see there's a pool in the back, and there's a 256 square foot accessory structure that I'll hover over, a covered area on the deck adjacent to the pool. We consider that, as well as the garage, to be accessory structures. When we calculate the sum total of both of those, it's 757 square feet of accessory floor area. Zoning ordinance does allow for no more than 2 accessory structures, and that the total ground floor area of both of them, individually or singularly or together, may not be more than 800 square feet. So right now they're in compliance at 757 square feet. And the petitioner proposes to demolish the existing attached garage and construct a new attached garage, and I'll hover over, and you can see on the screen, there's a driveway in the extended side yard of the property that turns 45 degree on a 45-degree angle to the side entry attached garage, and the petitioner is proposing to demolish that and to construct a new attached garage with a driveway that accesses it at a opposite 45-degree angle. The proposed attached garage itself is 804 square feet. And the petitioner wants to continue to retain the accessory structure adjacent to the in-ground pool. So when we calculate the sum total of the existing accessory structure adjacent to the pool and the 804 square foot garage, the petitioner's request certainly exceeds 800 square feet. The two equal 1,060 square feet. So they're seeking a variance of 260 square feet from that maximum 800. I will say that both of the accessory structures at that size represent a total accessory lot coverage of 5.4%. There is a provision in the ordinance which the board members may recall. It says accessory structures may be no more than 10% of a lot area, but in no instance bigger than 800 square feet. So in this case, the 800 square feet, they're exceeding that, but they're far below the 10%. The ordinance does allow for driveways to be within a front and a side yard. As we described, the existing driveway is in what we refer to, and I'm going to go back to the aerial photograph. The existing driveway is within the extended side yard setback. So this is the side yard setback of the house. certainly allowed to be there to provide a drive with parking in it or to lead to a detached garage in the rear or, in this case, an attached garage. But the petitioner's proposal reflects what we regard as a driveway in a front yard, which is permissible, but it has to meet some certain standards, and we'll highlight how their petitioner's proposal doesn't meet those standards. So there are provisions in the ordinance which allow for a U-shape or a horseshoe-shaped driveway in a front yard and a T-shaped appendage or a T-shaped driveway. But the ordinance doesn't allow for a driveway to be clear within the front of the house. It has to lead to either, it has to be in the extended side yard or it has to lead directly to a front entry attached garage. In this case, it leads to a side entry attached garage, and the driveway is within, this portion that you see on the floor plan is living space. This is the main house, and this is the proposed attached garage. So the driveway is between the attached garage and directly in front, leads directly to in front of living space. So they are seeking a variance related to essentially the design of their garage. We did receive one written comment that's included at the end of your report for your review from a nearby neighbor with not objecting to their proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there any questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none, the petitioner may come forward and state their name and present their case.
Hi, my name is Kevin Harper. This is my wife, Magda. We've lived in Royal Oak over 20 years. We've been in this house since 2009. We bought it on a short sale, and we've been investing in it and upgrading it since we've been there. One of the problems for us has been that we've always, obviously need is a relative question, but needed a larger garage. The condition of the side entrance of the house, both with the house being 28 inches above the adjoining or where you could park the vehicle, the side entrance is around the corner of the existing garage. It's 28 inches different, so there's no real way to get into the garage from inside the house and any reasonable way to have that covered. So the initial proposal was actually to just put a covered walk. It was a large covered walk, but a covered walk to get to a very similar structure to what we were proposing for the 800 square foot garage, so we didn't have to go outside. I could not come up with any way, given that the relative squareness of the house eliminates any ability to have, and I may be not understanding it correctly, but a 3-car could not face the street given the width of my house, despite the width of the property. So I was working to try to come up with a configuration that I could attach the house to the walkway, given the significant height difference between the entrance and the ground, with minimum violation. I've tried probably 50 different designs. I actually thought the previous one I had submitted with the large walkway, I did not understand that my covered deck, when I had permitted that was going to count as accessory square footage. It's a covered deck. It does have a privacy fence next to it, but I didn't see that. In my mind, it wasn't a building. I understand that it is, but that it would, in the future, take away my ability to build an 800 square foot garage. And I'm seeking, I guess the other aspect of the driveway is about, 5 to 10 years ago, our neighbors requested that we would write a letter for them to be able to have a 6-foot fence to the corner because they have a pool. I don't know if you can see the corner house and how close that is. I did not care at the time. I now have a daughter who just turned 16 and now have a driver that can't see around that corner. I would like to get the driveway away from there. As I do that, it impacts the ability to have a reasonable driveway to come all the way around. So that's, I guess, why we're here today is.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the petitioner? No, Ms. Grant?
Do you have to cut down the tree in the front yard to put the driveway?
No,
Oh, sorry.
we do not want to cut down the tree. The driveway is, I hope, far enough away to not have to cut down the tree. It's less than ideal, but I do not want to kill the tree.
Okay.
We spent money to try to keep the tree alive.
Goal is to preserve.
Got it medicine and everything.
Any other questions for the petitioner? No. Thank you very much. We're going to open public comment. When we close that, I'll then ask you if you want us to delay till next month or go ahead. We're down 2 board members, and you need 5 affirmative ones to variance to be granted. So just think about that. I'll come to you right back after public comment. Is there anyone here to speak on this case? Please come forward. Thank you.
Hello, Philip Sobek, 1507 Woodsboro. I'm the neighbor right behind the Parkla family. I think I'm the only one that actually sees their structure near the pool, and it looks just fine. I saw their drawings for what they propose. I think that it'd be a nice, I think it'd be nicer than what they currently have. It'd fit the neighborhood well. Additionally, the house I had requested a variance to have an increased garage for an interior ramp, handicap ramp, and was granted it. So I have the same size garage as what they're requesting, a little over 1,000 total square feet. So I think it'd be nice, and it should be approved.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this case? All right, tell you once, twice. All right, we'll close public comment. Would you like us to go forward with this or delay till next month?
Go forward with it.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring it to this side of the table. Is there discussion and or motion? Mr. Klatt,
I'll make a motion to approve.
is there a second? I saw Mr. Moore, I think. Go ahead, Mr. Klatt.
And I was going to say, this is a large lot from a Royal Oak standpoint. And I think our board's been pretty consistent over the past few years, approving accessory structures that exceed 800 square feet with the stipulation they don't exceed the lot coverage of 10%. So in this case, this is 5.4%, which is well below 10. I see this having minimal impact on the neighborhood, as we've heard from several neighbors, including the letter that we received. So those are my reasons.
Mr. Moore, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
All right. Anyone else? I think they stated their case very well. They do have a very unique circumstance with their lot being not only larger, but also have the variance in the grade where this makes a rational sense as to why you would have to do it that way. And the unique circumstance in this case is they have such a large lot that side driveway is considered front driveway, even though it's still sort of this side of the house. So by them moving it and making it a safer circumstance, I think it all in all improves the property and makes it a better situation. So I have no problem going along with this variance as requested. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Best of luck to you, sir. Next case, 220824 for 413 Ferris Avenue. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This property is located on the west side of Ferris between Gardenia and East 12 Mile Road. There's a new house under construction, as you can see on the screen, and a new 2-story home with an attached garage. The approved construction drawings identify a total lot coverage of 29%, and the ordinance allows, based on this lot size, a maximum total lot coverage of 30%. So they're very, very close. And the petitioner now proposes to construct a 12 by 20 covered rear porch to the house that's under construction. And we'll take a look at their drawings that can reflect that. So the image on the screen illustrates the rear elevation, which they would be proposing a covered rear porch. It's unenclosed, it's not additional living space. It measures 12 by 20 and it's just a covered rear porch. That additional square footage would result in a total lot coverage of 32.1%. So they're seeking a variance of 2.1%, or if you want to look at it in square footage, 144 square feet over the maximum allowable lot coverage of 30%. I will note that we did not receive any written public comment regarding this variance request.
Any questions for Mr. Murphy? Mr. Gavin?
I thought I saw a letter in there that was in support.
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize. You have sharper eyes than I do.
Okay. Mr. Clapp?
This might be a question for the applicant, but do we know if this home was designed as a spec home to begin with, or was the applicant here, was it designed for them specifically?
I don't know. I'm sure they know.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? All right. Applicant may come forward, state their name and their case.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Mason. This is my fiancée, Lisa Reuter. I currently live at 3517 Woodland Avenue. So we're the owners of the property and the house under construction at 1413 Ferris. I've lived in Royal Oak for 7 years. Love living here. Excited that we get to build our forever home in a spot that we can sort of grow. I know my fiancée is excited because she's going to be closer to her work. So she's a former resident of Royal Oak, so I'm excited that she's going to be moving back as well. Yeah, to answer maybe your question first, it's not a spec home per se, but I would say that our builder has built several of very similar homes throughout the city. I think some in Birmingham and Berkeley as well. So by the time that we had purchased the property, the foundation had been poured and the structure had basically been set. So had we been in this earlier, we wouldn't be asking for the variance today. We would have made the appropriate accommodations. So yeah, so as you mentioned, we do have a letter of support from our neighbor to the south at 1409 Ferris. We walked him through the proposal. He's in support of it. If you look at the west line of the property, I'm not sure if we can see it through the photos, but it actually lines up nicely with his covered porch in the back of his yard as well. In terms of the hardship, you know, as Joseph mentioned, if we were to stay within the 30% allotment, we'd have a covered porch that was roughly, you know, less than 10 by 10. So not a whole lot of space. So the amount that we're asking for, we think it flows nicely with the line of the house. And obviously from a coverage standpoint, it's nice, as we all know, living in Michigan, to be able to have a porch that we can use more year round as opposed to just the summer months. So that's it.
All right, is there any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Reddy?
Okay, yeah, so I think you alluded to this. On our agenda, it lists AB Homes LLC as the owner. So, you know, what is the status on that? You own it now?
Yeah, we've closed on it, and I'm not sure by the time we submitted it. I know because the last time I was here at City Hall was me dropping off the change of ownership form, so I'm not sure what's going there. But yes, we have closed on the property, and we are the owners of the property.
Okay, so yeah, that's good to know, because otherwise I was going to have a concern about, the present.
Yeah, I read that as well, so understood.
So, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Mr.
I
Clapp?
say they answered my question. Thank you for clarifying that. I assumed that if you were to design from the start, you would have built that into the square footage.
Absolutely, yeah. The lot that I live in now is slightly larger, so I don't have that issue. So when we saw that, we're like, oh shoot, okay.
Any other questions? All right. Again, we don't have a full board, so after I open public comment and close it, I'll ask you if you want us to proceed. But we do have 7 people here. You need 5 affirmative votes to go forward, so you'll have to decide at that time whether or not to possibly push it off to next month or go ahead with this one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, public comment. Is there anyone here to speak upon this case? Please come forward and state your name and comments.
Hi, my name's Larry. I live at 1414 Altadena. I'm their backdoor neighbor. So first of all, I want to tell you, I'm glad you're moving in. And if you have an errant golf ball in your backyard, it's my chipping. Okay, but here's my problem with this. We build these big houses on these little lots, and all we really do is bring people closer together when there are problems with noise and things like that. To me, all this means is their eventual get-togethers with their friends are 20 feet closer to my back window. when I'm trying to sleep. Now, the lady that lived there before had parties all the time on her deck. And their new neighbors had a party Saturday. And I can sit in my backyard and I could listen to every word that they were talking about. And I am 147 feet from their house. I used my laser level to calculate it, existing. And now you're going to add a porch, and then it will probably have pavers around it, so then you'll have people standing around, and and not to say that you're partiers, but I hope you can understand. And the thing that bothers me about being here, first of all, is if we have rules, why don't we just stick to them? Because if we gave them a variance, everybody else is going to want one too. And the other problem is, now they look at me as the bastard who lives across the yard. And I don't want that, because actually our close group of neighbors, we're all great neighbors. And all I'm going to do one day is just get mad, but I'm sure that happens all over Royal Oak. We're too condensed in our area right now. And like I said, a house like theirs, it should be built out in Macomb Township or something where they have an acre of land. And, we just can't keep pressing the envelope. And that's what all I really want to get at. I'm sure other people have said the same thing when they've come up here before. I have no ill will towards them. I wish them good luck, but it is what it is. So that's my comment, okay? And I appreciate you guys being here. I know you don't get paid, so whatever.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on this? All right, seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Would you like us to proceed, or would you like us to wait till next month?
Proceed, please.
All right, we'll bring it to this side of the table. Is there any discussion and/or motions?
Just
Mr. Clay.
question for Mr. Murphy. So when the house was originally designed, did it meet all the zoning restrictions and regulations? I assumed it met the lot coverage, all the setback requirements, so the house technically complies with every ordinance standard, right?
Yes, nothing was flagged by the building inspector that would have held up the construction process to begin with.
So the house fits on the lot?
Yes, they can finish the house essentially as is and obtain a building permit and an occupancy permit.
Any other discussion or motions? Mr. Gavin.
I'll move to approve the variance as requested.
Okay, is there a second? Mr.
I'll
Platt.
second.
Mr. Gavin, go ahead.
With this one, if this had been designed right from the get-go, I would have been opposed. But, with the explanation of how it got to where it is, and that it was, pretty much designed and under construction before the present owners purchased it, it makes it more amenable to me. Especially because now it's not necessarily their fault, under the hardship not being created by any person presently having an interest in the property. They would have tweaked their design had they had a hand in designing the building. So in terms of that, and with it being such a relatively small ask in terms of lot overage, I'm fine with it. Also, on top of that, we historically, we've been seeing more of these covered but unenclosed porches come before us. Especially given the pandemic and people wanting to be at home and not be inside all the time. And we've been in favor of them because we haven't necessarily considered them, living space or anything like that. So for all those reasons, I'm in favor.
All right. Mr. Platt?
No, I agree with all Mr. Gavin's comments. Yeah, I agree with those comments. It makes sense to me. I mean, from a noise standpoint, if it's open and closed, in reality, they could pave the entire backyard if they wanted to. I don't see a noise being an issue here. Closures are a popular feature, and I think the applicant, they would have designed this appropriately the first time, so there's some hardship built into this that it was already built. So that's why I'm in support.
All right. Any other comments? Mr. Reddy?
I'm torn on this one, but I think I'm going to be dissenting again, just because there doesn't seem to be anything unique about the lot here. Like in other circumstances, like this seems to be a similar lot to the other ones in the area. So.
All right. Any other comments? I'll also agree with Mr. Reddy. I'm torn and probably leaning towards no on this one because this is a greenfield build, essentially. You tore down, you built brand new. I know they came in late and whatnot, and you could still have a nice 12 by 8 foot porch or even a 10 by 10 and then that's covered and then have pavers beyond that. I mean, I have a nice 8 by 8 porch on my front that I enjoy all the time. So it's not that they can't have something, they just can't have something as big. So because of that, I'm more inclined to be denying it, especially with having their backyard neighbor explaining about how close he's going to be to their house. Essentially, if we grant them this, they could in 20 years, maybe not them, but the next owner, say, hey, I've got this porch, well, it's mostly covered already, I just want to enclose it and add it onto my house as extra living space, and now can I have a deck upon that? So now you get even closer to beyond that. So with our worrisome about stormwater effects and how much flooding there's gone on in the past few years, this 30% lot coverage is really sometimes a big important thing. And yeah, it might be going over a little bit, but it could create cascade effects we don't see. So because of that, and not seeing the practical difficulty because of this being a brand new build, I'm more inclined not to vote in favor of this request. Is there any other comments? Go ahead, Mr. President.
Yeah, I guess I would just say if there was a setback issue, if it encroached deeper into the rear yard, I would have concerns about that, but it doesn't. It still meets the setback requirements. And I thought about that too in my notes, like can they reduce it by a foot or 2 feet? It just makes it that much more unusable. You know, trying to furnish that. I know that's not a reason to approve something, but to ask them to take a foot out of it doesn't really help the case per se. You're not going to notice that difference. So the size doesn't seem to be, it's not a monstrosity. 12 by 20 seems pretty reasonable. And it doesn't encroach upon the rear yard setback.
All right. Any other comments? If not, we'll move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. All right, so 5-2, the motion carries.
Variances are
Variances are granted. Yeah, sorry. Motion carries and the variances are granted. So congratulations. Best of luck to you. All right, we will move on to case number 220825, 128 South Kenwood Avenue. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This parcel is located on the west side of South Kenwood. It's south of East 11 Mile Road. Property is comprised of 2 platted lots, Lot 11 and Lot 12. The aerial photograph on the monitors will display that the house and the garage sit on one side of the property and there's a large open area on the opposite side. And the petitioner proposes to divide the lot and revert back to the original plat. The survey that I will bring up on the screen illustrates that the existing side yard setback, the south side yard setback, measures at its nearest point 43.2 feet from the edge of the house. So from the edge of the house to the existing south property, side property line, it's compliant, and the petitioner's land division results in, at its nearest point, the house would have a setback of 3.2 feet from the new side property line. For a lot this size, the ordinance requires a side yard setback no less than 4 feet. We did review the lots that are being created to make sure they're the same size or larger in terms of the depth and width, depth, and area of those along the block, and it does meet that. I'll refer to it as a compatibility provision because they're on the smaller side. They're less than 50. They're 40 feet wide. So staff is under the ordinance allowed to administratively conduct that comparison, and if the proposed lots are at least the same size or larger than the majority on the block, it can meet the ordinance provision for the minimum lot size. does meet that. There are no variance requests related to the width, depth, or area of the lots being created. Just the variance request related to the new side yard setback that results from the proposed land division. The ordinance also allows for, as we know, a garage to cover no more than 10% of the lot area. The existing garage is only 5.3% of the lot area. But with the proposal to divide the property, it reduces the lot size and it increases the lot coverage related to the remaining detached garage. So the existing detached garage would cover, after the land division, would cover 10.5% of the lot. So slightly larger than the 10% allowable. We put that in terms of square footage, it's 26 square feet over the allowable, which is 480 square feet. We did receive one written comment, which is in your packet as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Murphy? Mr. Clapp.
Mr. Murphy, if the variance is granted, it looks like it'll create an issue with the existing southern wall of the existing home. By that I mean it's too close to the lot line. It's only 3.2 feet away. It'll need to be rated. You need to look at the window openings too. So I assume the building department would handle that at the time of permits?
Yes, excellent point, and that is purely from your professional vantage point, which others don't know of, and it's a good thing to raise. When someone wants to divide a piece of property, they would submit this type of survey to the assessor's office, and it circulates to several different departments. The planning division looks at it from the standpoint of lot size, setbacks, lot coverage, all the things that we're discussing today. But it does get passed on to the building division of the community development department, and they would make those exact same observations that you did, that based on that reduced setback, it may or may not meet the building code requirement for fire ratings or openings that close to a property line. So they would inform the property owner that before the land, if this board grants all the variances necessary, another step before the land division would become final and 2 new tax ID numbers would be assigned.
Okay.
The building division would work with the petitioner to make sure that they modify the structure to meet any building code requirements similar to what you referenced. So excellent observation.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Moore.
No, I didn't have any.
It looked like you had your hand up. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Eddy.
So they would have to modify. So they would have to modify the existing building to meet those guidelines, or would it come to us for another variance?
No, it wouldn't come to you. The building division would communicate with the petitioner to inform them of whether the structure needed to be modified, because now either the code requirement may not have been there when it was built, or it didn't apply because there was such a large side yard setback. But now that that's being reduced, as Mr. Klatt had pointed out, there are code requirements such as the closer you get to a property line, the more intense of a fire-rated building material needs to be so that fire doesn't jump from structure to structure. Some of that relates to the number of openings or windows close to a property line. It may involve, I don't know this for a fact, so don't hold me to it, but it may involve having to change out some of the windows to different rated windows or removing windows altogether. I'm no expert on that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's achievable. I'm not saying it's a big issue. They can achieve it extra as a drywall. It's a UL rating or some kind of hourly rating on the wall. Typically, I think it'd be 1 hour in this case. So it's definitely achievable, and they can do it. I just questioning if the building department flags that.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? I do have one. Granted, they might already be planning it. If we granted this, would we be able to put a stipulation on that the driveway would have to be on that north side, so that this way the house couldn't be as close to the other one, or no, that's not something you'd advise towards?
I wouldn't advise that. Each our ordinance is designed to allow, and the building code requirements, such as the fire rating, are designed to allow each property to stand alone and not be dependent or burdened
That's what I
by the presence of another. If you can tie your, if you want to insert that into an approval motion, you need to have a really strong connection that Mr. Kaluzny's office can defend in court. There's got to be a really strong
I know in
logic
the past there have
associated with it.
been people who've wanted that approach, so that's why I just wanted
Yeah,
to ask that.
and I tend not to require those because some of those are arbitrary in nature.
Okay.
Now, maybe just from the design standpoint, that whoever buys this
Mhm.
may logically want to do that.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure that
Mhm.
that's, no, thank you. Mr. Platt?
Yeah, good observation. Almost seems like a natural play to place it on that side. We can ask the applicant, but it seems as all the driveways are on that side.
Alrighty. Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none, the applicant may come forward, state their name and their case.
Hi, I'm Doug Street, lifetime resident of Royal Oak. I bought the property with my wife, and as far as that driveway, I am also a licensed builder, so the intention is to build a house, and I would keep the driveway in line with the rest of them, so but we would gain at least another 10 or 12 feet from that house. And if you look at the house to the north of this property, it's even closer to
Yep.
that existing property than this one. So we own about 8 pieces of property in Royal Oak, and I'm a builder, so I'm going to build a spec house there, but I'll keep it I'm going to keep the driveway on that side. So it shouldn't be a fire rated issue at all, in my opinion.
Well, you might still have, the building department will let you know in that case.
Well, like you said, I would let you attach some stipulation to it, but I think Mr. Murphy's correct. That gets sticky because, you can't guarantee what's going to happen, but those are my intentions completely. On the other hand, I am going to be renovating the current house that's there, so if there was a opportunity to maybe do a better fire drywall on that side of that living room, I could do that, But like I said, the house to the north of me is closer to this house than this house is going to be to the potential new house. So I think it's kind of a point. I think we're off about 8 inches, right? Is what the number is. So, and it is a brick house already. So that's quite a fire rated exterior to begin with. So, and there's only 2 small windows on that side of the house. Well, 3 with the bathroom. So. I guess that's all I have to say about the fire issues. And then the garage, the garage is slightly over now with the coverage, but it's a very well-built garage. It's in great shape. I'd hate to have to do anything to change that current garage, because the plan is to just renovate the current property and, keep it intact. So I guess that's all I have to say about it.
All right. Any
Thank you.
questions for the petitioner? Mr. Reddy, Mr. Moore? Yeah, stay.
Do you have plans for the new house?
I don't as of yet. I mean, I was going to go that far, but I said I better get this step taken care of. But
My question was kind of leading towards whether you knew of any variances you'd be requesting.
No,
for that.
like I said, I'm a licensed builder since 1995, and I'm going to build. I will not be getting any variances for the new property. I'm going to build well within the envelope that is set.
Thank you.
And the neighborhood doesn't call for anything to go bigger than it.
Nice.
I don't have any questions. That answered.
All right. Any other questions for the petitioner? And going once? Okay. As stated before, we don't have a full board. You need 5 to advance. I'll open up public comment. After that, I'll ask you if you want us to proceed. All right. Public comment. Is there anyone here to speak on this case? All right. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Would you like us to go forward? Okay. Then we'll bring it to the side of the board. Any discussions and/or motions? Mr. Gavin, I saw.
I can cede to somebody else if they want.
Go ahead, Mr. Gavin.
Okay.
And a second was.
There's no motion, so hold on.
Oh, yeah. What is your motion?
I move to approve the variances as requested.
Yeah, okay. Move to approve as requested. Mr. Reddy, I saw you as a second hand
Yeah,
going up.
second.
All right, Mr. Gavin.
I think this one's I mean, normally lot splits are not this straightforward for us, especially with the 40-foot lots. But, since it would be permitted and would fit the community very, very well, and that there is no lot, the majority of the lots there are already 40 feet, I see no reason to force, the house, the existing house to be, and garage to be brought into compliance. They're minimal variances that I'm sure just date from when the houses were constructed. As was pointed out, the house to the neighbor to the north is actually even closer than the variance that's requested for the side yard setback, and then the 26 square feet, the 0.5% being over the accessory lot coverage. It's so minimal. So I think this does substantial justice to everyone. I think it meets all of our non-use variances and our land divisions variance items as well. So I'm in support.
Okay. Mr. You ready?
I think Mr. Gavin covered everything I was going to say. So.
All right. Anyone else? I will also be in support of this. Normally I'm against lot splits, but this would have happened one way or another, in which case you either penalize the house that's already existing there in the garage, force them to either tear down the garage or rip off the side to meet it, because brick is 4 inches, so you're only 4 more left to go. I think that's a unique circumstance because of that, so therefore I'm all right with the variances as requested. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one passes unanimously. Best of luck to you, sir. You're welcome. Next case is 220826, 517 Catalpa Drive. Mr. Murphy, whenever you are ready.
This site's located on the south side of Catalpa, and the petitioner has demolished the previous home and is looking to construct a new single-family home with an attached front entry garage. We've worked with the petitioner on several different designs based on the footprint that they had identified that they wanted to build. Initially, it would have required a front yard variance. They've elected to, we'll say, slide the house back, and now necessitates a rear yard variance. You'll see the survey on the screen. I'll hover over the setback to the exterior of the nearest point of living space on the rear of the house, and it's only at 30.1 feet. And they've shown in the dashed outline at 35-foot setback. And so they're seeking a variance of that difference of 4.9 feet from the minimum required 35-foot rear yard setback so that they can construct the design that they have in mind. And we did receive one written comment from a nearby neighbor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there any questions for Mr. Murphy? All right. Seeing none, the petitioner may come forward and present their case and name.
How you guys doing? I purchased this home January of 2021, and in hopes of being able to renovate it. I like older homes. I was hoping to renovate it. It was too far gone to be able to renovate, so we decided to tear it down, and we're going to build, a nice 4-bedroom home. We've gone back and forth with a bunch of designs, as Mr. Murphy stated, and we've changed the plan 3 times. We have 3 sets of plans, and we kept trying to make it work, that it would fit. So we're just asking that we could get approval so we could move forward with construction. I'm sure that, the neighbors can enjoy that they've been looking at this empty lot for 20 months now. And if you guys approve it, we're ready to start with the basement as early as next week, hopefully, and get the project moving forward.
Okay. Is there any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Gavin?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rocco Vicari.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
Mr. Clapp?
Well, I guess that was my question. I think you answered it, but did you explore other options? You know, it's tough when you, on a vacant piece of property, when you're designing a home, that you can't make it comply. Like, did you explore a detached garage or other options? You know, maybe you can't get it to attach and make it work because of that tandem nature of it. It's maybe throwing the layout off a bit, but did you try detached? Did you try any other options to make it work?
Being that it's such a narrow property, like with the attached garage, it's only actually the width of a single car garage with double depth. We thought that would be better than trying to go wide and have the whole front of the house look like a garage, basically. But I don't know if
my name's Ignacio Balsamo with our common building. I'm working with Mr. Vicari and building his house. The real challenge is really the shape of the lot more so. And then as far as a detached garage, it was really to accommodate, I think it was the lot coverage, and also to be able to build, the type of home that Mr. Vicari would like for him and his family. We needed that additional square footage over the garage. So between the shape of the lot, the setbacks, and also it met the setbacks for the shape of the lot, or the size of the lot, but due to the adjusted setback, I think it was, for the average of the existing homes on either side, that's why we kind of needed to slide back to keep that nice sight line going down Catalpa.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, seeing none, as stated before, there's only 7 of us. You need 5 for approval. So after public comment, I'll ask you if you want us to proceed or to delay till next month, when you might have more people on the board. So we'll open to public comment. Is there anyone to speak on this case? Please come forward, state your name and your comments. You may want to step to the side for a second.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Kraft. I live at 918 Edgewood, around the corner from this home. As Mr. Vicari said, it has sat vacant for 20 months. It's rat infested. There's been trash on the lot. There's currently 6 to 10 foot weeds in the lot that haven't been taken care of. So it just shows me that he has no care for the neighborhood. The house that he's proposing to build does not fit with the neighborhood. It's a 2-story home. It's all 1 or 1.5 story bungalows next to it. He cut down a century oak tree on the lot there, and it's very hard for me to believe. I live in a 4-bedroom home with a 2-car detached garage on the same lot size. I don't know why someone else can't build the same thing. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. As seeing there's no one else here, I'm guessing there's no other public comment then. So we'll close public comment. Would you like us to proceed or delay till next month? Okay, thank you. We'll come to this side of the board for discussion and or motions. Anyone? Mr. Reddy.
I can see how it's an unusual lot with the, with the sort of diagonal lines, but yeah. But I'm having difficulty concluding that the present owner doesn't have a stake in this, seeing as how they purchased and demolished the existing house. So I guess that's where I'm standing. I'm a little torn on this one. Especially considering the neighbor's comments. But
okay. Any other comments or motions?
I just say my struggle here is just you have a blank slate to work with. Why can't you make it work? I understand the need and the want, but is that truly practical difficulty? That's my only struggle. I mean, there has to be a way to make something work, but I guess I don't see the practical difficulty yet.
Well, I know the comments that I have in my head is, I understand the whole detached garage thing, which actually would make it more work, but you'd eat up more of that backyard. It, by itself right now, is pulled more forward in that backyard than the adjacent garage is next to it.
Yeah.
So you're essentially creating more green space by having it, granting this versus not granting it. And I can understand them why they were not coming before us for not only a front setback, but just a back setback, where you're less likely to see any problems with that. So I definitely see the unique circumstance with the size of this lot. That's my thoughts right now. Any other comments or motions? Anyone want to just take a crack one way or another? Mr. Reddy?
Well, I'll move to deny. I just
Okay, that's fair enough.
I can't get around the last item about the present owner having a, I forget how it's worded here. Let me just see. That the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. It just seems that by purchasing and demolishing the existing house, you
Okay.
have.
Is there a
Oh yeah. Okay, so that's
That's
it.
all right. First off, we need to see if there's a second. Is there a second to the motion? Okay, there is a second. Ms. Robinson, go ahead, Mr.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I didn't mean to be out of order there. But yeah, I think that was it. I mean, I think the rest of them are okay. It's just I have trouble with that because it is a unique lot. But like Mr. Klatt said, you're starting with a clean slate. You could try to make it work.
All right. Ms. Robinson, do you?
Well, I agree with what he's saying. I don't think that lot, there's so many lots of this very similar size in that neighborhood. It is a clean slate. You could design it so that you wouldn't have to go with any kind of variance.
Any other comments? Well, Mr. Gavin?
I'm really torn. The clean slate issue is definitely on my mind, but as the petitioner pointed out, it's the angle of the lot actually does make it difficult to work with. And just looking at it, I can see that they tried to fit as best they could within the envelope. And the 5 feet, it is definitely an ask, but it's not as big as some of the other ones we've seen over the years, over my time here. So it's just I'm really torn on it, and I may not even know how I'm going to vote until the time comes, but it's a tough one.
Mr. Clinton, go ahead and Mr. Moore.
But Anthony, I do see your point too, though, that by currently the existing house is much closer to the road. This is pushing it back, so it gains that green space, which I guess from a public point of view standpoint, from the sidewalk, it improves that condition, right? In the rear yard, it's a little bit more hidden. Seeing that there's 2 existing garages that flank it as well on either side, that kind of conceals some of that bulk in the rear yard.
Mr. Moore.
Yeah, and this one I'm really struggling too. And my struggle is more the angled lot lines as well, because I think that does make it difficult to have a detached garage or some other type of arrangement, and it's clear that he needs to build a house of a certain size. So, families, whatever the circumstances are there, making a small house would then not suit him. And I do feel that, he mentioned that when he bought the property, he wanted to renovate the house that was there, but, found that it was too far gone, which probably does tend to happen to people.
Mr. Clapp.
I think one thing to point out too is that our board really has no control over the height. It's allowed under for these ordinance regulations. The height is within reason. Same thing with look or style. We have no control over that. So it definitely meets the requirements from a height standpoint. So we can't really judge on that criteria.
Plus, going upon that, previously it was a 2-story house, so it's not like it's being super tall comparatively speaking. But as I stated, I'm going to be against this motion, because, like I said, I think actually it's preserving more green space in the backyard, and their footprint, if you look at it, is not very big on that first floor if you take out the garage. It's only 1,000 square feet, a little bit over. So you're really not, if you took out that garage and made them do a driveway, there's not much more you can get on that first floor anyway. So we would be penalizing them to do something with a detached garage that would create less I think, a better solution than what they have now. So because of that, I'm against this. And like I said, the practical difficulty is the lot itself, I think. Is there any other discussion, or will...
Before we call the vote, just a reminder that the motion is to deny the variance request.
Correct. Is there any comments? No more? Then we'll move to vote. Remember, agreeing with this vote would be, as Mr. Murphy said, would be to deny the variance. Going against the vote would mean you're disagreeing with that denial. All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and raise your hands. Okay, 2. All those opposed? Nay. All right, so the motion fails 2 to 5. It's only appropriate that someone make a motion in the opposite stance. Mr. Gavin,
Yep, I'll make that motion
is there a second?
to approve the variance as requested.
Mr. Clapp, okay.
I'll support.
Mr. Gavin,
I don't have anything further to add. I think it's been fleshed out pretty well.
okay.
Same here.
All right. Any other discussion points? All right, seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of approving the variances as requested, please signify by saying aye. And raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-2.
Yep.
All right.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. The variances have been granted. Best of luck to you, sir.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. All right. Other business, is there any, Mr. Murphy?
Nope.
All right. Then we'll move on to general public comment. Is there anyone for general public comment? Okay. All right. Seeing no general public comment, is there anyone for the mystery motion? Mr. Reddy? Is there support for Mr. Gavin? Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we're done.
Yay. I can't turn this one off.
I lost that one.